Welcome to the Capital Gains Tax Solutions podcast, where we believe most high net worth individuals and those who help them struggle with clarifying their capital gains tax deferral options. Not having a clear plan is the enemy, and using a proven tax deferral strategy, such as the Deferred Sales Trust, is the best way for you to exit your business or real estate or highly appreciated stock without facing huge capital gains tax and to grow your wealth. I'm your host, Brett Swarts. In each episode, I am joined by some of the best real estate, financial, wealth, and business minds in the world, where they share their ideas, deal stories, and inspiration. So together we can make complex tax deferral strategies simple and passive income plans achievable. I'm excited to continue our series on the Deferred Sales Trust made simple. And really, we're trying to just clarify mostly frequently asked questions and conversations that we have every single week with potential deferred sales trust clients, and also professionals who are like insurance professionals or financial advisors or commercial real estate brokers or luxury realtors, and to help them clarify it for their business plan so they can grow their business and help more clients. I'm joined by my good friend and really business partner, as I'm a part of the estate planning team, Michael McIntyre, who's the national trainer for the estate planning team. Please welcome to the show, Michael McIntyre. Michael, how you doing?
It's an honor to be with you, Brett Swarts. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. And Michael is probably the most repeated guest now. I think this is maybe our fifth or sixth. And you can learn more about Michael's story in the previous interviews. But we're going to jump right into today's show. And we're focusing on, could the deferred sales trust be used to fund tax advantage product like cash value life insurance, similar to premium financing? And this was kind of a popular question that I got this week for some professionals that are real estate professionals and insurance professionals. And so, Michael, would you dive right into that? What is the answer to that?
Yeah, it certainly could. It certainly can be an option. I think there's a lot of reasons why life insurance might be an important feature solution for clients who are selling highly appreciated assets. One reason that insurable interest, as we call it, would be replacement value of the asset. Perhaps during your lifetime, you want to spend your money, and maybe you want your children to have some of that. So that might be a reason. Another reason might be estate planning, and another might be capital gains taxes, so that you didn't want to burden your children. Estate taxes are an important feature because in 2025, there's something called a sunset provision, which currently the estate tax exemption is a little over $11 million. That sunsets probably between 6 and 7 million for most Americans in 2025 per person. So it goes from 11 million back down to 6 to 7 million, where it was once before the Tax Job and Recovery Act. Every tax law has to sunset on a personal level. Otherwise, it has to go through a means testing for taxation through Congress. And so it purposely was going to sunset in 2025 unless it's extended. And it looks very unlikely that it will be extended. So it's going to probably be a more of an impact for many people who may have not had a problem of estate taxes, may now have to address it.
Yeah, and I've even also heard they might even take it away sooner. I mean, there's no one to say that that the new Biden administration, they've taken the House and the Senate, right? And they won in Georgia and won the presidency. Inauguration day was yesterday, or the day before yesterday. We're recording on the 22nd here, and so who's to say that they don't pass something next year, right? And just pull those things back. Right now, everything is pointing to higher taxes. But that being said, even regardless, it's good to know what your options are regarding the deferred sales trust and ways to use it, invest the funds into insurance. So would you break down why someone would even want premium financing, right? Or cash value life insurance? Why would someone want that to begin with, regardless of the deferred sales trust? And then let's combine the power of deferring capital gains tax on highly appreciated assets and funding that policy.
Well, life insurance is a beautiful tool which allows leverage for the insured to take care of potential expenses at death. And there's many different things that could do that. And life insurance also provides tax-free leverage that is an important feature. So that tax-free part is something that is extremely beneficial for somebody who is dealing with a direct expense. If you have an expense, typically you have to shell out maybe, depending upon your tax bracket, $1.60, $1.30, $1.40 for every dollar of expense. Now, some expenses are, you can write them off. Well, with life insurance, it is tax-free to the heirs if structured correctly. So that in that way, it allows people to cover for a direct expense in the future. Now, the other thing that premium finance, as you were saying, allows for you to have a multiple leveraging effect and call it an arbitrage on top of it, which arbitrage meaning that you have one return that you're, let's say, borrowing on, and another return that you're receiving that could be higher. And so therefore, the return that maybe the borrowing procedure that you have that's out there could be far cheaper than the return that you're getting. And then you're using money in the Deferred Sales Trust, that is, you're deferring the taxes, and you're allowing that deferral, if you will, to provide a return for you. And then you're borrowing on or perhaps against that money to provide a higher return for you. So there's kind of like a triple arbitrage going on there. You're sort of using, I call it financial aikido, right? You're using the power of the Deferred Sales Trust and the ability to defer a tax to pay for an expense in the future.
Okay, so let's pause there and let's do like a real life example. Maybe this is a recent deal, and let's use one that I just closed for a client. It was an Aptos. It was a $7.9 million sale. It was an investment property, and she's in her 70s. Okay, and we'll use that one, and we'll use another one for another gentleman who just closed in Alabama. It was a $2.6 million sale, and he's in his 40s. Okay, so different ages, right, and maybe different policy cost. And let's break down what we were able to do on the Deferred Sales Trust, and then let's apply those real numbers to a potential policy. Okay, so let's start with the first one. Aptos. She owned the property for 25 years, very low basis. In fact, I think when she first bought it was about $900,000 or so, and fully depreciated. So we saved approximately $2.5 to $3 million of tax liability. She was able to pay off her debt, and she netted about $6 million into the trust. Okay, and so let's say she's 70, and so that extra about, let's say $2.5 million is what was saved. So now break down, Michael, what that might look like on an actual numbers for a policy for someone like that to take advantage of what we just talked about.
Well, when you get into the 70s, you start to get into some more expense in terms of the actual life insurance, and I haven't run those numbers yet. But we certainly could. I just did one for one in their 50s. Maybe we could do that.
Sure, let's do that one. Yeah, that sounds good.
That one's in my head, and the one in the 70s isn't in my head
sure.
yet. So this particular one was roughly about a $20 million transaction. And they had sold and they netted 20 million in the Deferred Sales Trust. We were assuming that they would make about a 6% rate of return. So that would be about 1.2 million in cash flow.
And pause real quick. How much tax did they defer on that? Had they not used the DST, how much would they have netted? And using the DST, they're at 20. So how much did they defer?
Yeah, I think the taxes that they were deferring were closer or above 6 million.
Okay, so it's very substantial. So an extra 6 million. Okay, great. Keep going.
It was a $6 million deferral in tax. It was in California. I'm sorry, in Minnesota was the transaction, and so you're doing a pretty high tax state, and so on that 20 million, 6 million is deferred, and roughly we're talking about a mid-50s individual. And so the life insurance they wanted to replace was about the tax that they wanted to cover was about 5 million, which isn't entirely covering all of the taxes, the estate, the estate or the capital gains taxes. And that's certainly the choice of the note holder to not cover all of it over time. So that was about 300,000 a year in the life insurance, and the borrowing, the policy we assumed would make over 5, and the borrowing would be somewhere in the 2%, 2 to 3% range.
Okay, pause right there. So he wanted to cover about 5 million of his liability, and or state tax, however you want to look at that, right? Both or a combo. To do that in his mid-50s would cost him about $300,000 per year. And the actual policy itself was earning what exactly?
Yeah, it's probably earning between 5 and 6.
Okay.
Was the return.
And the cost of that was
the cost of the.
Oh, I'm sorry. So 5 to 6, right? So if it's earning 5 to 6, the policy that's putting 300,000. Break all that down. Well, I guess walk through that circle there to see how we're paying for this.
Yeah, the interest on it, I think, would probably be somewhere in the per 100,000. So we're talking about 6,000. 6,000 to 7,000 a year of interest that we're talking about, and yet it's earning the money on the 300,000 is earning a much higher rate that we're talking about, and so that accumulates over time, and roughly in the 16th year, the loan would be paid off. There'd be enough to accumulate, if you will, in the life insurance policy to pay off the loan, which is roughly about $1.5 million. That
in the 16th year, after paying $300,000 per year, now it's paid off, right? And the policy is still going to pay out that $5 million upon death,
right?
And now that extra $300,000 can go to something else,
right? Right. Well, they only paid for 5 years, the policy, so it was a 5-pay policy. It wasn't a policy that they paid for 16 years.
Got it.
So I left that part out there. And then the interest on it, I think, was about roughly 450,000 was the interest. And the interest the trust could pay, the Deferred Sales Trust could pay as well as a investment. So it could say, hey, we want all our money back, our 450,000 back, and we want a return on our money. So we're going to loan it to what's called an ILIT, an irrevocable life insurance trust. So that's outside of the note holder's estate, and the kids could operate that. Okay, and the lender could lend to the ILIT, and the lender isn't just going to lend to the ILIT; it's going to want collateral. It'll want part of that policy. It'll say, hey, we want part of that policy, but the note holder could say, hey, in normal circumstances outside of the Deferred Sales Trust, the owner puts up additional collateral, additional money on their own. Well, the trust could raise their hand and say, hey, I'll put up collateral on the Deferred Sales Trust because we have $6 million of kind of free money here. Okay, that is so we'll post any additional collateral, and maybe the note holder says, well, we'll go into second position instead of being first position. We're going to go to second position in this circumstance. So
it can borrow against it. In other words, you can borrow against the policy, the DST, in order to fund the life insurance policy. Yes,
at the permission of the trustee, that's you, and the permission of the note holder, that certainly is possible. So everybody agree, and then DACA, which is the Deposit Account Control Agreement, signs off on that as well. So everybody says okay to that and goes into, and the note holder goes into second position on a small portion of money so that they can have a life insurance and policy, which theoretically they don't have to ever write a check on the note holder. So they're essentially using that money that the IRS is deferring to pay for their estate taxes.
Perfect. Love that. And so now let's talk about the advantage of taking income from the trust and then using that to fund this policy versus borrowing against. So is
Sure.
there a scenario where you would say do a little bit of both or one or the other? Could you walk us through those advantages, disadvantages?
Well, more efficiently is to have something that is pre-tax, right?
Mhm.
Because if I receive that money, going back to our taxation comment earlier,
Mhm.
when I receive that $1.2 million
Mhm.
on that $20 million investment, I pay taxes on that at ordinary income tax rates. For
Mhm.
anything above my $20 million, I'm paying ordinary income tax rates. So I'm not getting all of that. I'm diluted by 30, 40, maybe depending on my bracket, maybe in the future, maybe 50%, maybe more,
Mhm.
based on tax brackets. So by having the trust be the lender on it, I'm far more efficient with my cash flow, and I'm able to spend that 1.2 million. I might be diluted a little bit on that because some of that money is going out a few $1,000s a year, so I may not get exactly 1.2 million because I'm lending that money
Mhm.
and for a future date. But eventually, the trust will be paid that money back, either through the death benefit or the growth of the cash value. So I'm not gonna reduce much of my income down, and 1.2 million is plenty for me.
Mhm.
If that's suitable for the note holder, we have to find out if they need every penny of those dollars. Otherwise, it's not possible to do it. So it's far more efficient to do things without tax than with tax.
Excellent. And then let's talk about the timing of pulling out funds from the deferred sales trust, since it's kind of like a 401k in that you can park funds in the deferred sales trust and you can delay payments. Now, eventually, we needed to make some payments,
Yes.
but I would say about 70% of our clients are, 3, 4, 5 years, they're delaying the payments, right? Meaning the interest that's owed to the note holder, typically around 8%, depending on the net of all recurring fees over a 10-year period of time. They don't necessarily need the income, especially the deal we just closed in Colorado. It was about a $5 million sale of an apartment complex, and this gentleman is worth about 20 to 25 million, and he moved it outside of his taxable estate. But he also doesn't need or want the income, and he's waiting for at least 4 years to even start the income. So let's talk about the either essentially we can delay the income, so and then just borrow against it, use it as collateral, fund the life insurance policy. That's definitely an option. We talked about that, and the other one would just be taking the income and using that to do a personal life insurance policy, right? I mean, you pay tax on that income and then fund that. So maybe you already answered that, but I just want to make sure the audience catches that. You have both options, right, Michael?
Yeah, there's several reasons that note holders might decide to defer up payments or income. One is my favorite reason is seasoning, as I call it. It's referred in the industry. Is if you're ever taking income off of an investment, you want to allow it to have some seasoning, some depth to it, so that if there is a correction or a change or a drop in the value of the asset, it will not affect your overall principal. We all want to be good stewards
Mhm.
of our money, and if we don't need the money, if we can afford to defer it, we might want to do that, and we might want to use investments that would allow what I call a spigot. Right, you could turn it on and you could turn it off. Another reason to defer your income off of the deferred sales trust would be if, for example, you sold a business and they ask you to stay on for a period of time, and you really don't need the money. In
Mhm.
fact, having the money might be a burden for you in terms of a tax liability.
Mhm.
This happens very frequently to people in the medical profession where they're making a segue or a very, very important business where they have an employee compensation package to stay on or hold back that is there for that. So all of those things are super important that you might want to defer in income. I think the first is more common, obviously, than the second. But you may want to carve that out when you're getting a deal. You may want to have a compensation package, and that's part of the reason that we work closely with our sellers is to advise them, give them plenty of advice, particularly in the negotiation stage
Mhm.
of that. And so, different types of investments are going to behave differently and are going to be better suited for that delay, because what happens on the deferred sales trust, as you know, is that it's its own entity. And when any income comes in, it's going to pay taxes on it, or it's going to have it as an expense if it pays it out. So it's important not to have that as on that cash flow for the trust, because then the trust is going to pay taxes on it, and that sort of defeats the purpose. So it's important to have a continuity investment plan with that.
Yep. And also too, just to clarify on that, that's a great point. If the note holder is not receiving payments in a given year, what's unique about this particular trust that we use, it's able to, even if it's not, if it's accruing and earning, the trust itself, the investments are, it's able to expense what it owes even into the future, right? Accrue that interest that's been compounding, even if it hasn't paid it out. And so most of the time, a lot of our trust at the tax level are zero taxed events on both the trust and on the note holder, because they haven't received anything until, of course, they start receiving payments. So that's just a little clarifying there.
Yeah, if it's planned properly, right?
Yeah, if it's structured properly and everything else. So that's what we do. So thousands of closes now, 25 years, Michael, and we work with insurance professionals, financial advisors, commercial real estate brokers. So if you're learning this for the first time, we would love the opportunity to teach you more about that. Capital gains tax solution, just so you know, is partnered with, or really a member of, the estate planning team. We act as the trustee. And Michael McIntyre and I are educating and equipping people with the deferred sales trust every single day. So if you are a business professional listening to this, you can go to experttaxsecrets.com. You can also reach out to Michael directly. Michael, what's the best place for them to find you?
Well, before I say that, just make sure that you subscribe, like, and do that for those YouTube algorithms, so that Brett gets all the likes that he deserves, which is quite a bit. You can find me on Success Training Estate Planning Team is where you can find me, and then you can find me at mydstplan.com/Ask Mac. And then of course our main website is myept.com, like myept.com.
And for those who are wondering, Michael's expertise, he is actually a financial advisor for many years. And he used the charitable remainder trust and premium financing insurance before he learned about the deferred sales trust. And he had wished when he sold his business that he had used the deferred sales trust. But now he is passionate about educating financial advisors, insurance professionals, anyone who wants to help their clients escape feeling trapped by capital gains tax, to use the deferred sales trust as a nice tool to grow your business. That being said, who does this work for? This is also a very common question. Just as a reminder, it works for anyone who has highly appreciated real estate, including primary homes, investment real estate, including saving a failed 1031 exchange, also including highly appreciated public stock or private stock. Okay. We're actually working on a cryptocurrency deal right now. And we believe it's going to work for that as well, because that's subject to capital gains tax. It also works for artwork and collectibles. Okay. So if you are a real estate professional, for example, listening to this, you can help somebody not only sell their primary home, defer the tax, but then it can fund the next investment real estate purchase, which is a nice also alternative to the deferred sales trust. The funds can be invested in stocks, bonds, mutual funds, of course, insurance, which we've talked about, as well as real estate deals by yourself or with partners, which is really, really nice. We like to call it the Netflix to the old Blockbuster way of doing things. And so, Michael, do you want to touch on that, on how you see that the deferred sales trust really is the Netflix to the old Blockbuster 1031 way of doing things?
Yeah, I think it's so important to be efficient in your financial independence, your quest for this. One of the biggest expenses that you'll have when you sell business, you sell real estate, you sell a stock, you sell something that's highly appreciated, is that you need to get to a big critical mass number that's going to provide you the retirement lifestyle that you want to. If you start off that first step with 30-40% less, that doesn't sound like very good planning to me. And being a good steward means that you keep as much dollars as possible in your pocket without giving it away at the very beginning. So it's important that you counsel with smart, wise we're a law firm, accounting firm, and marketing organization that really counsels you and helps you segue that beginning first step. to financial independence. There's all sorts of taxes that you're going to pay throughout your lifetime. There's going to be property taxes, there's going to be sales taxes, there's going to be income taxes, and then at your final expense, you're going to have estate taxes. And I didn't even touch upon things. You fill up your gas tank here in California, and there's tax upon tax upon tax. And you're going to be, the slow death of 1,000 cuts with taxation on this, maybe more than 1,000 cuts. And so it's important that you have as much money as possible to be that good steward of your money. And it begins on the moment that you are successful on your highly appreciated business, your highly appreciated real estate. Say you want to get out of the tenants, toilets, and trash and move on to the cruises, clubs, and cocktails of your life. If that's the case, you need to look at a strategy that's going to mitigate your taxes over time and keep those chips on your side of the table and not give it away at day one.
Very well said. And let me touch on that. We always learned in commercial real estate when I was at Marcus & Millichap helping people buy and sell multifamily properties that you make your money on the buy side, right? You don't make it on the sell. Although you want to defer it on the sell, right? You actually make it on the buy. And this is where I think the 1031 exchange is very, very challenging to make your money on the buy, especially in today's market. Oftentimes you're selling very high, right? And then buying higher 180 days later, right? With the lower interest rates, maybe that helps you a little bit, but really that's just push the values up even more. And you're going, oh my gosh, like, why am I buying this? Well, because of the tax deferral, I need to defer the tax. So that's how we say it's like the old Blockbuster way of doing things is forcing you to not make your money in the buy, it's forcing you to overpay. Whereas the Netflix way of doing things, the way I like to talk about it is the Deferred Sales Trust. You can sell, like Michael said, put it on the sidelines, defer it, and then buy whenever you want. Right? Just like you can rent a movie whenever you want, right? You don't have to drive down to the store, get out of the car, go see if it's even available, return it within 3 days, pay the penalty if you don't. That's the old way. And what we're saying is don't do it the old way. Sell high and buy low when it makes sense. Michael, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I was just sort of thinking that I read at one point that Blockbuster made a lot of their money off of the penalties. It was so hard to return that video. I mean, a lot of times when there were people that would return videos and it was the penalties were more than the video was worth. So at that point, what do you do? And it's sort of the, let's take that shotgun wedding approach and apply it to the 1031 as you were kind of laying out there, is that you've got 45 days to find a property and 180 days to get married, to get hitched. And there's a shotgun pointed at you the whole time. And there's that, where are you really making a wise decision? Are you really, buying that property when you want to? Plus, you have to disclose to the seller that they're the only one. And why would they negotiate with you if they knew that in disclosures? And with the Deferred Sales Trust, you can take your time if that be your choice that you want to go back into real estate. Plus, it recasts a new cost basis on the purchase of up to 80% in the real estate. So I have always found, I'm not a huge real estate purchaser and not terribly sophisticated, but when I did purchase real estate, it was because I took my time. It might have taken me a year or two. Maybe I'm just slow, but the 1031 just was a hurry up and get into the property with that shotgun wedding. And I just don't see that's a sustainable model.
We never make good decisions, Michael, under the gun, right? Typically, it's very difficult. And by the way, the 1031 doesn't even work for primary homes. The Deferred Sales Trust does. The 1031 doesn't work for business sales. The Deferred Sales Trust does. The 1031 only works for investment sales, whereas the Deferred Sales Trust works for highly appreciated public stock or private stock, right? Artwork and collectibles, cryptocurrency. It works for primary homes, works for investment property. So that being said, we're running out of time now. And so if you are interested in learning more about the Deferred Sales Trust for yourself, you can go to capitalgainstaxsolutions.com. We have a free ebook there, Sell Your Real Estate or Business Smarter. We're going to give that away to you and allow you to help take one step closer to escape feeling trapped by capital gains tax. And then if you're a business professional looking to grow your business using the Deferred Sales Trust, you go to experttaxsecrets.com. It's experttaxsecrets.com. And then please reach out to Michael or me and find Michael again on YouTube for his channel. And that's Success Planning for the Estate Planning. I believe that's what it is. Success Training for the Estate Planning Team. Sure. And then we appreciate everybody being here and listening. And please rate, review, subscribe. And take care.